In this tutorial, I'm going to tell you more about our two-way communication systems. We'll look at what we mean when we use this term, what tools we use, and what are their advantages and disadvantages. First, what do we mean by a two-way communication system? When we use this term, we refer to a system that allows WFP to contact the communities that we serve, and them to contact WFP. This system has a number of objectives. It can be used to share useful information with communities. For example, we share information about WFP programs, market price updates, and information about market access. It can also be used to receive feedback from people in the communities where we work. The origins of the mVAM two-way communication system go back to an IDP camp in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Shortly after starting remote data collection, we realized that people in the camp were using the airtime credit incentive they'd received to call up the local WFP office and ask about upcoming food distributions. They'd also call relatives to get news from home and receive mobile money transfers. By implementing phone surveys, we had also, quite unintentionally, been empowering people in this isolated and vulnerable community. We realized that the technologies we used to collect information could be used to share information with people in the camp, making their life a little easier. We soon began working on what would become the two-way communication system. The tools we use for two-way communication are CATI, computer-assisted telephone interviewing, IVR, interactive voice response, and we've also developed two new tools, free websites, and a chatbot that will be tested in Kenya and Nigeria in early 2018. Before setting up a two-way communication system, there are a number of things that you need to consider. First, you have to identify your target audience. For example, is it the general population, your organization's beneficiaries, or a specific area or socio-demographic group? At the same time, you need to identify what information you'll be sharing. You might already have some ideas, but it's essential that you test them. Talk to your target audience so that you can understand what information they need and what the issues they want to contact you about are. You should also talk to your colleagues to assess what information you can share. Bear in mind that some information might be too sensitive to be shared on the phone. Second, you need to decide which of the tools is the most appropriate to reach your target population. Important factors in this decision are phone ownership or literacy rates. Make sure that you also take into account your existing data collection system and the type of information you want to share. Note that different tools can be used simultaneously. Third, you need to decide what languages you'll use and consider how to present the information you want to share clearly in a simple format. Fourth, plan how you're going to promote your system. People need to know the phone number to call, the web address, or how to search for your chatbot. You should also consider running some sensitization campaigns or events, as some people might need help in understanding how to use the tools. Finally, create standard operating procedures for staff involved in the process. When setting up two-way communication systems, particularly if you plan to collect beneficiaries' feedback and complaints, you should consider setting up a complaint and feedback mechanism, a CFM system, and a set of standard operating procedures. These should include the roles and responsibilities of staff involved in running the system, such as operators and the focal points in relevant teams who are responsible for required follow-up, a question and answer script and guidelines, such as which questions can be answered directly by the operators, automatically by your chosen tool or focal points, and which need to be passed on to others for follow-up, a mechanism to follow up with the relevant teams or focal points, who needs to update the information you're going to share, when these updates happen, and what information sources you'll use. You should also consider what the procedure will be in cases of urgent questions or emergencies. Finally, they should include protection and privacy considerations. Feedback and complaints should be logged in a platform, possibly a professional customer relationship management software, and followed up with on the resolution process. Let's now look at each of the tools you can use for two-way communication systems in more detail. First, Let's talk about CATI and how we use it for two-way communications at WFP. In several countries, our in-house call centre operators also receive incoming calls and reply to people's questions or follow up on feedback or complaints with the relevant teams. These calls are free of charge, and anyone who has access to a basic phone can contact the operators. This means it's a good option for setting up a two-way communication system if your target audience have low literacy levels. Operators then manually log all questions, feedback, or complaints in a customer relationship management software called a CRM. This software facilitates the follow-up process. It helps to compile the caller's information and automates a number of workflow processes, such as sending questions or feedback to relevant colleagues. Easy, standard questions can be answered by operators during the call if this is part of your standard operator procedure. So, when would you want to set up a two-way communication system using CATI? If you already have or are planning to have in-house operators for remote data collection, they can manage both incoming and outgoing calls. Note that if you don't have a call center already in place, the system is more expensive than using automated tools, as it requires you to hire dedicated full-time operators. The size of the team depends on the volume of outgoing and incoming calls. A CATI-based two-way communication system can be in-house or outsourced, even if it's focusing on feedback and complaints. However, note that there are pros and cons to either system. When outsourcing, a neutral third party will be processing the feedback. They can manage more calls, and there is no need for daily management. However, they may process the information more slowly, and it is essential to have stringent privacy and protection policies. At WFP, we also use IVR for our two-way communication systems. In this case, incoming phone calls are received by an IVR system. By pressing the numbers on their phone's keypad, people can navigate through a menu of pre-recorded messages that contain useful information. They can also record feedback or complaints. A history of all received calls is saved in the system. This includes phone numbers, the time of day the call took place, the duration of the call, and selections made during the call. This data can help you understand what information people are interested in. You can also download and listen to the audio recordings. The feedback recordings are followed up by the relevant units or departments. Like CATI, anyone with access to a basic phone can contact the IVR two-way communication system. While literacy is not an issue, some sensitization might be needed if communities are not already familiar with IVR. One advantage that IVR has over CATI is that it's available 24/7 and, because it's automated, it's cheaper. However, it's also important to note that IVR still requires a lot of follow-up when it's used for two-way communication. This is particularly necessary if people can record messages. Someone in the office must be tasked with listening to the recordings, forwarding questions and feedback to the relevant teams, addressing the questions or feedback, and recontacting the callers. Even in this case, a customer relationship management could be used to facilitate the follow-up process. A good way to design a two-way communication system could be to integrate CATI and IVR. In this system, live calls are conducted or received during office hours, and when operators are not in the office, it automatically redirects to an IVR system. The same operators would then be tasked with following up with the messages left on the IVR system while they're out of the office and receiving incoming calls during the day. To adapt our two-way communication approach to countries with increasing internet-enabled phone penetration and data usage, we have now started using free, mobile-friendly websites. The websites are designed to work on both smartphones and basic internet-enabled phones on very low bandwidth internet. Through this tool, it is possible to share relevant information such as food prices, distribution information, market access issues, or nutrition-related messages. It's also possible to ask basic survey questions, including free text, multiple choice questions, and basic polls. One advantage of using websites is that it's very low cost to set up and maintain. All internet users in the country where you've set it up can access it, so it has the potential to reach millions of people. It can offer a variety of information to the communities for free, and has multiple ways of displaying information. The different types of survey functions, such as open-ended questions or multiple choice, mean it can be used to get feedback or run surveys among users. It is also low cost for your office, as there are no additional costs for hardware or software. However, there are a number of disadvantages. It's not suitable for low literacy areas, and while it doesn't require a smartphone, it's only accessible from internet-enabled phones. The websites are designed to use up as little data as possible. However, ideally they should be free to maximize your audience. This can be done in a variety of ways. First, it could be submitted to be available as a Free Basics website. Free Basics is a Facebook-led initiative that aims to provide the 2/3 of the world's population who don't have the internet with basic web access, and is currently available in 63 countries. Using a SIM card from a supporting mobile network operator, otherwise known as an MNO, users can access participating websites free of charge via the Free Basics app or their zero-rated, no data charge URL. If this system is not available in your country or the supporting MNO is not widely used, then it's possible to negotiate for a zero-rated URL with a particular MNO that you know is widely used. Finally, if your target audience is in a particularly small defined area, such as a refugee or IDP camp, you can consider whether there is free Wi-Fi and whether it could be installed or negotiated. The final two-way communication tool we're currently developing is a chatbot. A chatbot is a computer program designed to simulate conversation with human users. By using chat apps, people can send messages and receive answers, simulating real conversations. The chatbot can be designed to reply to a number of questions and provide information on things like nutrition. It can also be used to collect information from users. As it is API-enabled, all the information collected can be sent real-time to a WFP server for review and analysis. Here's a short video demonstration. The concept of a chatbot conversation is similar to that of SMS conversations, but it is much more flexible. The main reason is that there are no character restrictions for messages. The chatbot also allows you to use multimedia such as voice recordings, geolocation, and pictures, so you can share many different types of information. While the system is not free for users, unless they connect to a free Wi-Fi or Free Basics, exchanging messages through messaging apps is much cheaper than exchanging SMSs, so the conversation can be longer and more complex. For these reasons, the chatbot is very good for collecting data. Through a chatbot, receiving and disseminating information can happen simultaneously. Some of the downsides of the chatbot are that it is not suitable for low literacy areas and is accessible only from phones with internet access. Also, as mentioned earlier, unless they connect through Free Basics or free Wi-Fi, users have to pay for the data they use communicating with the chatbot. We're still testing our chatbot, and more information will be available soon. When you are ready to deploy your CATI or IVR two-way communication system, you can follow the instructions that were given earlier in Lesson 8 on in-house tools. For information on free websites, contact the mVAM team. For the chatbot, further material will be developed as soon as the developing and testing phases will be over in mid-2018. You can find a document on scoping and deployment of two-way communication tools in the resources section of this lesson. Thank you for watching this video on two-way communications.